Guys, welcome to Real Talk with Keith Smith. My name is Jerry Miller. It's good to be with you on a Wednesday morning. Thank you kindly for joining us. My name is Jerry Miller. We're live in Charlottesville, across Central Virginia, the Commonwealth, the country, and the world on the I Love CVille Network, and we're presented by our good friend, Inner Circle, our dear buddy, Scott Morris of Ross Mortgage. Scott Morris and Ross Mortgage, someone you can rely upon, count upon when buying a house, folks. Judah Wickhauer's the director. Judah, if we can go to the studio cam and then get those 2 and 3 shots ready to rock and roll. The distinguished gentleman is in the house. He's looking quite sharp. We thought, much to our disappointment, our disappointment, we thought that we were going to have 10 or 15 minutes without you, but you made it. You got parking right in front of the studio.
I tell you what, we were talking before the cameras went on. I'm going to go play the lottery or something today. I'm doing good. The board meeting went a little sooner than anticipated.
This is a car board meeting.
I hit every green light from
Hillsdale Drive
to here. I swear to God, hit every green light. And as soon as I was about ready to turn into the parking garage, a guy got out, pulled out in front of the NBC 29 thing, and I may or may not have done a U-ey in the middle of the street.
Oh, beautiful. Right in front of the police station.
Right in front of the police station.
Love it.
And waved at the cop as he drove by.
Ah!
Literally, hey guy, how you doing?
Tito Durrett. Was it Tito?
I don't know who it was. I just kept my head down and waved. And pulled into the spot. He may or may not have done this. Shake his head. Are you kidding me? But literally did a U-turn in the middle of the street, pulled into the spot, and had enough time to walk and get a cup of coffee.
Got a cup of coffee as well. You don't have a bead of sweat on the brow. The shirt is perfectly pressed. You sprint from a car, Charlottesville Albemarle Association of Realtors board meeting.
Sprint is a bit of
to the downtown mall. We'll call it a jaunt, maybe a stroll.
No, maybe a drive.
All right, we drove. He drove. He was in a Toyota Tacoma. Mm-hmm. Wasn't a sprint at all.
No.
He wasn't on a bicycle. And now we get to talk
stuff
on Real Talk with you and truly do one of our favorite things every week, Keith.
Oh, come on now.
You know I love this show.
I was panicking. I was watching because I love you guys dearly. I didn't want to make you guys kind of do it.
Thank
so
you.
It just worked.
I mean,
out
it's
really
Real
good.
Talk with Keith Smith. Keith Smith's got to be here.
I thought it was Real Talk with Liza the dog.
Real Talk with Keith Smith. Check out that fantastic website, nicely designed.
And the logo.
Website.
The logo's not too bad.
RealTalkWithKeithSmith.com. My friend. So
he may or may not have done that.
Judah with obviously some guidance and some suggestion. Judah Wickhauer. So why don't we talk about this? And Judah's the director. You'll see him a part of the show. I think he's got a 3-shot ready to rock and roll. So markets, ARM demand is up.
So let's define ARM.
Adjustable rate mortgages.
There you go.
And you have a couple of options. The most common ones are 5, 7, and 10, gentlemen.
Yep.
And ARM demand, because the 30-year fixed, the interest rate on the 30-year fix is now what, 6?
It's
basically just under 6?
Yeah, it depends on your credit score, but let's call it just a tad over 6.
So demand for adjustable rate mortgages is surging, the biggest jump in 13 years. I'll read you the data and then get that big, beautiful brain, that intellect.
Hold on a second.
Drink damn coffee.
Caffeine.
Mortgage applications to purchase a home rose 8% last week compared with the previous week, bolstered in part by demand for adjustable rate mortgages. Mm-hmm. A big jump in mortgage rates may have actually spurred home buyer demand, perhaps as consumers worried rates would move even higher. And lastly, the average loan size at just over $420,000 in America is well below its $460,000 peak from earlier this year and is potentially a sign that home price growth is moderating. So 3 pieces of data right there for you. First, adjustable rate mortgages. I would love to get your take on ARMs.
Yeah, so we've this is nothing new to our conversation, right?
We've been on it with the show.
We've been on it for a while, and look, it's practical, right? So you have to, in order to buy, you're going to have to do something to get that interest rate down. So I was actually on the phone with Greg Slater on the way in and land trust conversations and all that. So, look, the reality of it is, particular land trust, the 6% mortgage is killing a first-time home buyer, and this is an option out there to do that. We were actually talking about that with Julia Roberts and Scott Morris and a couple of our trusted.
Julia Roberts, the mortgage broker, not the star from the silver screen hit Pretty Woman.
That's right. Forgot about that.
Runaway Bride.
Yeah.
We still love Julia.
So can we use this as a tool to help the affordable housing buyer, right? So the reality of it is that's what was going to step up. Our concern in the beginning was very hard. It's very hard for those who have lived through the time of great unpleasantness, right? Or the Great Depression, real estate depression, as I call it, on that end of it, not to go, this sounds awfully familiar.
Sure.
Right?
Well, I mean, Kevin Yancey watches the program regularly. A lot of people watch the program regularly. They're pointing to commonalities.
Sure.
From 07, 08, 09, 10,
Sure.
and right now. Now, we have taken the stance that it's very different from then. There's much more regulation, rules and regulations in place. There's much more equity in people's homes.
Equity is the key issue.
Equity in people's homes. And they learn from 07, 8, 9, and 10 and didn't use their homes as piggy banks. So
Yeah.
you're saying it's not like that. I'm in agreement with you as
No,
well.
no,
On
no.
top of the inventory pinch.
Sure. Well, it's interesting. We're going to talk about that because we weren't supposed to talk about that. The housing availability pinch.
Well, the inventory is rising.
Yeah. So we've been.
So we can talk about it now.
We can talk about it now.
Yeah, because it's a good thing.
Okay.
It's rising, right?
Got it.
Yeah.
Another note.
Yeah.
Inventory good now.
Yeah, inventory talk.
Talk. Okay. Talk about. So so all those things kind of bottled up into one. I think everybody's concern was the 1s and 3s and the 5s, right? You know, that's a little bit. But if you're looking at the 7 and the 10s, 7 years and 10 years, you know, most folks are staying in their homes. But you know, look, the lending requirements are difficult. I was sitting in a board meeting. To the right of me was Woody Fincham, right? He's on the car board, and we were just, you know, before the board meeting, we were having a conversation about, you know, how's it going, right? Woody's coming on, I think the 29th, if I remember correctly. You know, how's it going? How's evaluation going? And you know, it's a lot of extra work, right, for them. But the valuations are not decreasing. So everybody understands. We got basically 3 terms floating around right now. Everybody understands appreciation, right? The homes are appreciating. Everybody understands depreciation. Those who remember 2001, we're in what I call a deceleration mode, right? So the values of the homes are not, you know, in a recessionary or receding in value. They're just kind of tipping back a little bit.
Sure, they're slowing.
They're
going back to healthy levels of appreciation.
I had somebody tag me on a Facebook post I did this morning. You know, we're back to normal, whatever normal is on that end of it. So look, it's a great tool, right? And we have to constantly change our toolbox.
I have a lot of data points I want to throw to you and the viewers and listeners.
Ooh.
So viewers and listeners, get ready for this.
Data.
Inventory levels. This could be a reflection of rising interest rates. Are you ready?
I am.
Active inventory in our country,
Yeah.
nationwide, is now up 17% year over year,
Yeah.
according to Realtor.com.
In some areas, it's closer to 30%.
Year over year.
Yeah, that's year over year nationwide.
The 30-year fixed interest rate with conforming loan balances, $647,200 or less, is now at 5.98%.
Yeah, and I
Nearly double where they were a year ago.
yeah, I'm. Part of me wants to go, hey, we talked about this 3 years ago, but
100%.
I'm you know, I just don't want to be that guy or that person, right? But we talked about this, right? You know, everybody expected 3% to be the norm. I had my daughter and son-in-law in for Father's Day. By the way, happy Father's Day to you.
Thank you. Same to you.
And that was the first thing. They were like, "Oh my God, interests are 6% and 5%, and how we're going to buy a home." And again, since 1972, the average is around 7.5, 7.7, depending on who you talk to, on that end of it. So we kind of still belong to the average for that length of period of time. It just requires a little bit of skill, but it's hurting the entry level buyer, right? Because they don't have the ability to bring cash into the same conversation I was having with Greg Slater. He was talking about some recent sales, and he's coming in on the 29th with Jim Duncan.
Heavy hitters.
Yeah, definitely. This is a sit back and shut up, Smith, and let them talk show. But he was saying, look, the prices are accelerating there still in Old Trail, and it's even at this interest rate. And what it is people are bringing more cash to the table, right? Instead of financing 100% or 97%, they're financing 60, 70. 80%, whatever the math.
How many deals have you done with adjustable rate mortgages?
Wow, I can't remember the last one I've done. No, but it was.
Have you done one this year?
No.
Have not done one this year?
No. I don't think anybody in our shop has done one yet. I would say the last time I seen that was, in the insanity world, 2003, 4, 5. 6 kind of thing. But interesting, so we're allowed to talk about inventory. I just looked quickly this morning, and I posted it on my Facebook page. This last 7 days, we had 101 new units come on. Same week a year ago was 75. So we're going in the right direction on the end of it. And we've got more actives this last week than pendings. We got 101 versus 86. The big difference on that is price changes. A year ago, we had 27 price changes for the same week. We got 77 now. And it's interesting because I save, each week I do it, I save the shot and save the analysis on it.
I know you do.
Those 27 were all price increases, right? This is a year ago. This 77, with the exception of 1 or 2 new construction, they were all decreases or decreases, maybe the wrong choice of words. They were price adjustments.
Keith Smith dropping knowledge today. Judah Wickower.
It's the coffee.
Looking to jump in with the question for Smith on the 3-shot. Judah, get in here.
So I'm just curious with, since pay hasn't increased at the same rate as pretty much the rest of the market, how does that affect the affordability with rates going back up? I know that
it impacts it hugely.
Yeah, I mean, I know that like you and others have said, 40 years ago the rates were 15% and higher, but is that sustainable with the rate that
No, it only hurts the entry level buyer even more, right?
Yeah.
So they're getting a double whammy, right?
Yeah.
They're actually getting a triple plus whammy, right? So we're all getting impacted by the inflation. We're all getting
Inventory pitch, inflation, rate hike.
Salary not increasing.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's 4.
Yeah.
Right. So doing that, and so it's a combination. Today at 2:00, we've got a regional housing partnership board meeting, a full partnership board meeting that I'm chairing. We're literally going to be talking about this topic and how we can help the the housing affordability matrix in it. But they're hitting multiple levels. So these things usually never are one thing, right? So the buyer that's got the cash is going to be pretty much in control of the market at
And the buyer who has the cash is the boomer, and it's not the.
That's not necessarily
or the bank.
What do you mean the bank?
Well, think about it. The bank takes all these deposits from all these different places. They've got to do something with the money, so they put it in property because they've got
are you
cash.
thinking the banks are going to
I
buy?
don't. Banks don't want to
No.
own real estate.
No.
Banks don't want to own real estate.
No.
They don't want to have that on their balance.
I love you, Judah, but I'll have to push you back on that a little bit.
Banks and jurisdictions don't want to own real estate.
That's funny you should say jurisdiction.
You're talking the parking lot?
No, I'm not
No.
talking the parking lot.
What was in Neil's
Yes.
Good, the Bad, and the Ugly?
The good, the bad, and the ugly. And
Neil Williamson, you out there?
he's probably still at that board meeting.
Okay.
So the good, the bad, and the ugly. And it's interesting because I read it quickly this morning. There's a provision. So we're jumping a little bit around, gentlemen. But
That's good. Let's keep it going.
But this is in reference to the.
And Judah, stay in the mix.
So this is in reference to the.
Oh, Neil's watching. He just gave me a like on Twitter.
Oh,
What's
good.
up, Neil?
Oh, the board meeting.
King
must
of
be over.
content. I love you, Neil.
So it's interesting. The topic that Neil that Judah brought up is the jurisdictions owning property or the banks owning properties, and I think we kind of pivot into jurisdiction. So in reference to your article, the good, the bad, and the ugly, of the blog posts, and I've been reading the 118 pages of the new Charlottesville proposed zoning ordinance. So they issued a preliminary white paper, for lack of a better term, on it's going in there. But Neil actually pointed out something which I did not realize until I read into it more deeply. On the page number 15, it's a zoning diagnosis. Blah, 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 blah. So what they're talking about is the city having the right of first refusal, which really perplexed me, and I really have not had a time to get into great detail, and he might be able to add into it a little bit. I'm trying to figure out how legally it says support the city right of first refusal. If a local property owner is selling units that are affordable but unrestricted, that's the important word, the city and/or its designee, whatever that might be, land bank, I don't know what that might be, could have the right to acquire those units at fair market value. And
Does that mean if they put in an offer, you have to accept it over any other offer?
And here's another question: is who determines fair market value?
Right.
And here's the third question: if it's a multiple offer situation and the city's offer is not the best, does the city still win the property?
Yeah.
Because they're the city. And here's another question: how can the city do?
You lost me after one.
With the city with the tax rate? Is the city going to tax itself the full rate on property they own themselves?
Of course not.
I mean, those are all legitimate questions.
Yeah, well.
Woody Fincham, hello.
Hey, Woody.
Your bottle of bourbon is phenomenal.
Oh,
Neil
yeah.
Williamson, questions for you. I mean, don't you think those are legit questions?
Those are very legit questions.
Well, the word unrestricted, I'm actually in.
But cities and jurisdictions don't want to own property.
Well, we started the conversation with lenders don't want to own property, and all one needs to do is remember back to the time of great unpleasantness, they do not know how to manage property.
That's what I'm saying.
But
The city doesn't even have the staff to staff City Hall. How's it going to staff a property management division?
So it's interesting. In Europe, banks are actually the real estate agencies. So in Austria, there's some real estate companies, but the banks are the ones that actually act as real estate agents.
Having those isolated is better for protection.
Yeah, no.
Because it creates layers of protection.
Yeah, so it's interesting, looking at the 118 pages. It's one little paragraph on page 15, and Neil quoted it verbatim as I would expect him to do on it, but it's unrestricted. So the word unrestricted, look, to follow Neil's comment on it, the reality of it is I don't think this is legal. I don't think that the city can come in and say, you must sell your piece of property to me. And what determines affordability, what determines how this works, my suspicion is that's going to be, that comment and that thought is going to get thrown out and probably should be thrown out.
But you did see the city's bought a parking lot, right?
Well, that's different. So the city, if you think it's good or bad,
City of Charlottesville.
that's a different animal, right? That's a completely different animal. I happen to, is it the right use of the property or not? It becomes different things. But they're acquiring it, in air quotes, as a community asset, right? So everybody can use this parking garage.
It's interesting. Community asset. Are they going to profit on that community asset?
I'm not getting, I'm just saying.
I would imagine you're going to profit off a community asset. That turns it into a community commodity that you profit on.
Let me try it a different way.
Okay.
so the city can buy something for the good of the community, right? Whatever that might be, a school, whatever. This comment here is saying if Jerry owns a home and somebody determines, and again, I'm probably taking it too far down the road, but if determines that it's affordable, again, then you must sell it to the city. That's what let's define what first right of refusal means. First right of refusal means if I've entered into a contract with you to go ahead and do that, and there's a first right of refusal for Judah, right? Oh, excuse me, you put a piece of property on the market and there's a first right of refusal for Judah, and I come in and put a contract in on it, Judah gets first shot.
Yeah.
Obviously, the first right of refusal. I just don't understand. I read this at 4:00 in the morning. I just don't understand how they could actually legally do that. So if that's true, that's definitely defined in the ugly standpoint, in my opinion.
But the likelihood of having to worry about that is not very high. The likelihood of having to worry about that is not very high. They don't want to own the property.
Yeah, well, they said that about the beginning of COVID, so, right?
Can't see.
It's in there for a reason.
Very few scenarios where they would want to own the property.
That's in there for a reason. Somebody has spent time and energy and conversation to put that in there.
What do you make of the downtown parking purchase? Downtown parking lot.
Yeah, I have not really read into that too much. I'm not that read up on it.
Just under 1.7 million.
Yeah,
to help appease the court sharing agreement with Albemarle County.
Got it. And so I'm not read up enough about it to get into too much of a detail into it. But an example.
$40-some thousand a parking space.
Well.
Yeah, and wasn't it 73% over?
Assessment.
Yeah.
And the Market Street parking garage is rarely full.
Of course, a lot of that has to do with the last 2 years, I think.
The pandemic, undoubtedly.
I'll tell you, even I didn't park there because I got lucky, but I park there 3 times a week generally, and I very rarely see it full above.
When do you have to go to the top deck?
I never go to the top deck.
Never the top deck.
Matter of fact, not only do I never go to the top deck, I usually get the same spot every day.
Yeah.
Every show.
Matthew Gillikin, friend of the program, checks out the show, says the city just lit $1.65 million on fire on his Facebook page.
Yeah, so, look, I would lean on Matthew. He's been on this, been the expert in reading up on it.
He's very anti-parking garage, parking lot.
I think what he is
car too, right?
Yeah, he's very pro electric bike, public transportation, walkable, dense cities.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I get that. I understand that. I wouldn't say he's anti anything. He's just saying, hey, guys.
No.
We're spending.
And he would agree. I would say he's anti-parking
I'm just trying to use a kind of gentler word.
He would agree with that.
I know he would. But what he's saying is, hey, guys, time out. We're spending $40,000 to park a car, and because of the parking requirements, right, that's a whole nother level of this 118-page document that we haven't gotten to yet, which is what is really the design requirements for this zoning, right? Because there's the zoning, what you're allowed to do it, then there's the site plan end of it, or there's the subdivision, or there's the site, how you physically have to do it. And one of the struggles that you run, particularly around affordable housing in the city of Charlottesville, is you have to have like 1.5. If Matthew's watching, he'll correct me, but 1.5 parking spaces per residential unit. And I think there's some ways you can get around it. You can narrow it down to 1 on the end of it. If you add some in the current structure, you add some biking in it, and if it's on a certain route, and so forth and so on. So what Matthew is saying is, well, hold it. If I'm in a certain area right there where I have access to a bus, I can walk to UVA, I can walk to the downtown, much like Portland and Seattle has done. Difference being, here's an example. Coffee's kicking in. My daughter and son-in-law came to visit us which, by the way, I have permission to disclose we are going to be grandparents again.
That's amazing. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Let's get
Thank
the
you.
audience, please, live audience in the studio. Please give a round of applause for
Yeah.
Keith.
Number
Thank
three.
you, guys. We
Number three.
appreciate you. Thank you very much for doing that.
Liza, I didn't Liza puppy paws. Did the puppy? Did Liza do that with her puppy paws?
I'm still teaching her how to clap.
Yeah,
So they come and visit you, and
Thank you. ADD kicked in.
what were they doing?
So what they go from their airport. They
Fly to Richmond?
no. So we drove them up to IED, but that's a whole different story.
Okay.
But they arrive in Seattle, get in light rail at the airport, and literally the light rail is 2 blocks away from their house. So they never had to get in a car.
It's great.
They arrive at 9 o'clock at night, get in the light rail. We don't have that here, right? We don't have that mass transit infrastructure. Probably never will.
No,
at that
that's
level.
unfortunate. I don't understand that.
Well,
I mean, you're at the forefront of this.
It's a numbers thing.
You're at the forefront of this with the one transit system for all the region.
Yeah.
I mean, is that the which
well-
partnership is that?
Well,
Which-
that's the planning district commission.
yeah, the planning district commission.
Yeah, so there's different versions, the MPO and
Yeah.
and different stuff. But look, the reality of it is we're not at that volume of people, right? It's just the number, the ROI doesn't work, right? If you were to run a light rail down 29 to center of 29, the billions upon billions upon billions of dollars that would cost. Now, that doesn't mean there's other solutions. I am surely not an expert at this in any stretch of the imagination. And I think what Matthew was saying, and I think what's coming in, what they're talking about here, but if we're going to do something on Cherry Avenue, right, and build a multi-story, mixed income, mixed use project right now, so much of that building has to be parking, it becomes cost prohibitive,
Yeah,
right? It doesn't happen.
yeah.
So if they minimize this,
I mean, that's part of the reason why the Kim's Market property's been on the market for so long.
well, that's closed and sold.
It's now.
Yeah.
Yeah. It took years to get to that point.
It took many years, and,
Yeah.
and unfortunately, I think it's not much is going to happen with it, but that's a whole different conversation.
I mean, that's a conversation for Chris.
That's a conversation for Chris.
That's Chris Kabash, the listing agent.
Just Mr. Kabash. Yeah, so I thought that was interesting to chat a little bit about that. That I don't know how a jurisdiction can exercise a right of first refusal. We are a property rights state. I just don't know how that actually could ever
I
happen.
mean, and it's important to stipulate that we rarely see this being used. For example, if this was being utilized, the Dewberry Hotel would be something very different.
Yeah, but would it want it? Would you
Would
want to
want
own?
it?
Would you want to own that
That's
Dewberry?
I mean, it's on the downtown mall.
I wouldn't want to own that
If
building.
the city doesn't want to own a structure on the downtown mall, why would it own any
Would you
structure
take that
in
building
town?
if it was given to you?
That's a good topic. If Dewberry approached the city and
That's not the
said,
question I asked. If it was given to you, would you take it?
probably not. I would not.
Yeah.
I mean, your taxes every year on the Dewberry Hotel are $65K.
Yeah.
65,000. You have made the argument that the Dewberry is a tear down. It's a start from
It is.
scratch.
It's getting awfully close to it.
Yeah, and I trust you. So that's a start from
It-
scratch.
and it's not me, it's the engineer buddies that I know that
And
that
think
look at
about
that.
this: the cost of goods in the labor market and the in the lending environment are way different now.
You've got that.
Yeah,
How old is that? How long has that structure been there?
I'll find out for sure. I'd say at least 15 years, but let me
Yeah.
find out.
Yeah. It's been long enough there that people don't see it any longer. Right.
Locals for sure.
Yeah.
Tourists see it.
Tourists see it, yeah.
Yeah.
But to take that structure and finish it is going to be super expensive. It's like almost like a renovation, because at some level you're going to have to go in there and fix a bunch of stuff. And but at some point in time, that building's going to become a problem.
Let's see here. The groundbreaking ceremony was held. What year do you think it was, Judah? Three shot.
Three shot.
What do you think, Keith? If I gave you a year, groundbreaking ceremony, Dewberry Hotel, then the
Well,
Landmark
it was-
Hotel.
It was before the time of great unpleasantness.
It was the Landmark Hotel.
Yeah.
Halsey Minor.
2006 is my guess.
You?
I don't know, 2005.
Groundbreaking ceremony was March 11th, 2008.
Wow.
Guess, what do you think the initial cost to build the Landmark Hotel was in 2008?
25 million.
That's a good guess.
30 million?
$30 million. $30 million. The plan was to have the hotel open by July 2009. How much you think it costs? And we have no idea. But how much you think it costs to build a hotel now on the downtown mall in Charlottesville? I would say it's probably 3x that, at least. At least 3x. Labor, right, is up. Cost of goods is up. And whoever builds this hotel will most likely
So the
have
only-
debt service.
Yeah, the
interest rates are up.
only positive end of it
Uh-huh.
is you don't have to go through the acquisition issue, right? So if you and I and Judah want to build a hotel in the downtown mall, we're going to have to acquire something first, tear it down.
Well, and the zoning.
Yeah, the zoning is going to be a given, right? And who knows with this new,
So if Dewberry approached you and said you can have it, would you take it?
I would run away as fast as possible.
You would. Yeah.
Yeah, I would. That is, I think that is nothing but a problem. I think long term it's nothing but a problem. I also happen to be at a certain age in my life.
Sure, of course. Yeah.
that I wouldn't want to do that. But just from a practical perspective, the amount of work, it's always more expensive to renovate something than to start from the beginning. Everybody knows that,
Yeah.
right? But there is some benefits, right? Right? It whatever zoning it's in and whatever approvals it's in kind of has to remain in place. You're not acquiring whatever the acreage is or the size of the land over there to go ahead and do that on the end of it. I just think, I think a 15-minute walk through that building, you'd go, yeah, I don't think so.
Why didn't the city get it?
I don't think they can.
No, they can't. Snook's come on the show before, and Snook has said the dude's paying his taxes, and we can't eminent domain it.
Yeah, I mean, what?
But that's a perfect example of, getting into property ownership, and should the jurisdiction do it, or is the jurisdiction willing to do it? You got to structure a block and a half away from City Hall, and they're not showing any real interest of getting involved in it.
Well, I don't think they can.
They
right?
can't.
They
Snook said
can't.
they can't. They have no legal recourse.
That's exactly
that's
right.
what he said.
Right. So, and they sure as heck don't want to be in the hotel owning business, right? With all due respect to my dear friends at the city, they're having a hard time running their own business, which is the city. They surely are not going to take on another endeavor. What may be happening here, and part of this conversation may be potentially the city creating a land bank where then you could put this into a land bank or something along those lines, that's kind of similar to the foundation that UVA has, right? It's not UVA, it's a foundation, so it'd be a separate body to go ahead and do that.
Dan Pettit, good morning.
Hey, Dan.
Welcome to the show. We love you, Dan Pettit. So we have inventory year over year, Dan Pettit, at a 17% increase. There is 17% more inventory on the market now nationwide year over year. That's according to Realtor.com. Homes, are they selling faster than they were a year ago? That question has come on the feed for Keith Smith.
So the answer to that's an interesting question. I didn't take a dive into last week's DOMs, and somebody can surely take a look at that. That's the Dan or somebody that's on it. But we're still in under 20, 24, 14. It really becomes a location-driven specific on the end of it. We talk about this all the time. Location is going to start becoming micro now on that end of it. But just curious, and somebody who is smarter than me. This week, last year, we had 75. This week, we have 101 come on the market. I'm just wondering that's roughly a 25% increase. Does that sound right? That math sound right to anybody? So if we had 75 homes go active a year ago, right? This same week, a year ago, and this last week we had 101.
Yeah.
So that's roughly 25%, right? Look at that. Even a Marine can do that on that end of it. So we're up 25% just week over week, right? Not looking at it much protracted than that. But we're over 100%, considerably over 100% in price changes.
Our Pettit, Mustache Dan Pettit wants to say, has the question, when do we hit 8 on the 30 fixed? Man, 8
I got to
on
tell you
30
something.
fixed?
I had a conversation with a bank president about 3 months ago, and I, at the moment, thought he was full of you-know-what. And he says, watch out, 9% by the end of the year.
No.
I swear to God, he said
Stop.
that. I'm not trying to scare anybody. I'm just telling you what the man said. And I said, literally, nah, that's not going to happen. Scott's really the expert
Scott Morris
to talk about that. But look, I think as Scott said last week, shoot, move, and communicate, adapt and overcome. Right? The market's going to start adapting. It always does to things. Certain people are going. The entry level buyer is going to get really squeezed out of the market, worse than they were before. Which makes some of the work that I do on the volunteer end of it even more important.
Yeah.
On it, we were struggling to help people before 6%. At 3% is getting much worse.
Jamie Turner, repping the Pep and Culpeper, the mayor of Gordonsville, one of Woodbury Forest's finest alum.
I want to give a shout out to Gordonsville.
Jamie Turner.
On Sunday, when we came back from dropping off the kids at IAD, we stopped in to grab a cup of coffee in the middle of town. There's this great little coffee place that opened up, and Yonna and I sat there out in the outdoor thing, and it is really a gorgeous,
oh, it's amazing. I love Gordonsville.
Little
love
town. Traffic's a little buzzy. My hearing aids were picking up quite a bit of it at 1 o'clock in the afternoon or whatever time it was. But yeah, man, it was gorgeous. We had enjoyed the heck out of it.
Jamie Turner shares a link to a listing in Gordonsville on Main Street. That listing and link can be found in the comment section.
I know exactly that house.
Of my Facebook page. It's 204 North Main Street.
Yep.
A list price for $495,000, 2-bedroom, 2-bath, just over 2,344 square feet on Main Street in Gordonsville, all brick, with all the bones you would need to make something absolutely spectacular and special. JT, as many of us were, fortunate to lock in a good rate, right? Jamie, you think about it now, look at where interest rates are. They've 2x'd year over year. And Keith Smith just dropped a dime that 9%, after speaking with the bank president, could be on the horizon as early as this year.
I pushed back pretty tremendously on that. But we also had this conversation in the beginning of this year.
We're at call it 6. We're at 6.
We tend to call a lot of things on the show,
for sure.
right? And
John Blair, hello.
Hey, John, we get a lot right.
Yeah.
The one I got wrong was that we were not going to see much over 4% in this calendar year. And boy, I was wrong on that. So maybe this bank president is right on that end of it. But a lot of that, I think, has to do with the Fed putting either taking its thumb off the scale or putting it back on, depending on.
Your take on the Fed? He's got a good one on this. We were talking prior to the show in the green room, Judah, on the transitory nature of inflation and how the Fed had to brand inflation in the early stages as transitory to keep volatility from happening. If they explained to everyone out there that this was going to be a brief spike in prices and that it was eventually going to settle itself down, it calmed the markets versus spooking the markets. Now we're looking at Powell live on national TV.
I was just watching it, yeah.
Literally having to answer the question, yes, we made the mistake by calling it transitory. It was much more permanent than we ever thought it would be.
Yeah, but we talked to,
I mean, this time last year, a lot of people thought it was going to be a brief respite.
inflation.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh.
And now inflation has influenced or changed the direction of the housing market that could impact a generation, if not two, of home buyers in America.
It impacts everything, and actually went back to look when we talked about this. Was this November, December? Actually, was the fun show where we had a bunch of hats and stuff on it. Where I think you asked me the question, what do I see the biggest impact to the real estate market? And it's inflation, and it's coming, and it's here. But it's interesting. The quote that I just saw in the left corner of my eye was, Powell stating, and maybe Judy, you can jump on this, is we understand the term inflation or something to that effect. And I wonder if they do, right? I wonder if do they really understand the term inflation and the impacts that it has on folks?
I mean, I think they understand. I think it's just, no one can see into the future. I mean, and we'll get you in the mix. Dan Pettit just said, I never thought I would consider borrowing from my Northwestern Mutual account. I can borrow at 8% anytime with this account. I did not think that I would put my Northwestern Mutual account into a borrowing mechanism, but now it's something I'm considering. Jamie and Gordon and Culpeper, because looking around, most people my age, 26, have the sentiment that they will never be able to buy a house. I mean, I hate to say this, the first-time home buyer may not be able to buy a house anytime soon. I mean, what's happening now is going to impact a generation or maybe two of first-time home buyers and potentially keep them from ever getting a home. Judah, any topic, Fed, policy, interest rates, inflation, first-time home buyers?
Yeah, I mean, as like I said, as wages have not kept pace, and as inflation makes everything more expensive, I mean, when banks look at how much you can afford, if you go from a mortgage being a third of your
take-home
monthly
pay
income,
That's
to being like half,
that's exactly right.
then I mean
We're closer to 50% than we are to a third, right?
Yeah, and also it depends on the person and how much they're making, and like you said, you're cutting out the lowest guy, because there are always going to be people that can afford houses. It's just a matter of who they are and where they are in the overall wealth structure of.
That's a great thing, and I just didn't bring the data and the numbers with me, but I'm going to really take a harder look into what has closed in the last week over week and find out what price points they are and so forth and so on that end of it. But to quote Neil, more housing for all. There's a part of this equation. To go back to Jamie's statement, there's a part of this equation. There's just not enough homes, right?
Yeah.
So if the amount of homes increase a little bit, even though borrowing money is a little bit more expensive, or a lot more expensive, or double what it was a year ago.
Yonna disagrees with us.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh.
She says I disagree. That's Keith's beautiful better 7/8.
Oh.
Take a look at historical data of finance rates. We paid 16% interest for our first home.
Actually, it was 18, but
18.
yeah. So I don't disagree with Mrs. Smith. I never disagree with Mrs. Smith on that end of it. But you're 100% right. Homes were trading.
When you bought your first home, Yonna, question for you as well, Keith, for you. When you guys bought your first home,
How much?
you had stagflation then, right?
80, no.
When did you buy?
So it was 88.
Okay.
I think stagflation, and somebody will have to be a lot smarter than us to look at that when stagflation stopped. I don't think stagflation like
Because Volcker was raising rates to combat stagflation.
So it's interesting. So the components that require stagflation, we have two of them at the moment. We don't have the third one, depending on
the employment.
the unemployment. But I again, not to be. I want to have fun today, and we haven't quite got there yet. But
I'm having fun.
yeah, I'm a little concerned about the unemployment spike coming.
Well, we talked about this yesterday. Who was it yesterday? I'll find the link.
So just a little FYI. I can't tell you who, but I was on the phone yesterday with a CEO of a pretty prominent company around here, large, not the super large, but large enough to they're looking nationwide to cut. They're doing it now. It's going to probably hit the news here pretty quickly. 50% of their facilities they're shutting down.
Yeah, we were talking about this yesterday. We were saying we were talking about how the jobs are going away.
Our industry, the big companies, the national companies or the Wall Street companies are cutting people. Some lenders are cutting folks on that end of it. Now, the pool of unemployed, jobs versus available is kind of like the housing market, right? It's just huge, but it's starting to happen at a bit of a rapid rate, and it's something we need to keep an eye on, because if that starts increasing a little bit, then that's an extra component on top of this, which is going to make it even harder.
We're not negative Nancy's.
No, not at all.
But we talked with Alex Erpy yesterday how some economists are saying the unemployment rate needs to get to 16% before inflation is going to get in check. And that was Larry Summers.
Yeah.
Larry Summers literally said he wants 10 million people in America. This is the former U.S. Treasury Secretary, Larry Summers. 10 million people need to lose their job, or we need to get to an unemployment rate that is significantly worse than it is now to curb inflation.
That technically may be true, but
it's terrible.
Somebody's going to lose a job. Somebody's going to lose some stuff. So we got to be a little sensitive to that.
I mean, if you think about that, having unemployment, we'll get to the comments coming in. Buchensky, we'll get to your comment here. Coach Buchensky here in a matter of
great comments
It's called
yesterday.
the Phillips curve.
Yeah.
And they used to believe that there was a direct correlation between inflation and unemployment, and you couldn't have both at the same time.
Right.
That's
the more
exactly
you
right.
had of one, the less you had of the other. But as
We're having it now, though.
As we mentioned yesterday, you can take a look at places like Argentina and see that doesn't always hold true.
That the data points may be archaic and not applicable to 2022, exactly. But dude is a baller, or he's got on his resume is certainly very prestigious credentials, former U.S. Treasury Secretary. You got a dude who is significantly respected in the industry, in the world, and he's calling for the unemployed rolls to swell to roughly 16 million people from just under 6 million in May to put inflation in check.
So are they still talking about a soft landing? Or they've
No.
start changing that conversation over there?
I mean, Powell said this morning, and Coach Buchensky, we'll get to your comment here. Powell said this morning in the presser that's going on now that he says the American economy is strong. And Powell said this morning that the American economy is so strong that it can withstand and sustain more rate hikes, and to expect them, and he doesn't expect the American economy to suffer from these rate hikes. He literally said that this morning. He said that this morning. This is a comment from Coach.
I think we're talking about things that they have to say. We're not talking about him actually believing that.
Well, this is what I'm torn about here, okay? This is what I'm torn about with you guys here. We have some data that suggests coming out of COVID that Americans have chopped down credit card debt and have pent-up demand from 2 years of staying
But
inside
that's done a 180 now.
and wearing a mask.
The credit card debt is
Credit card debt is up.
going
Credit
through the
card
roof.
debt is up, right? We have that phenomenon, the Roaring '20s phenomenon. Now we have this. We have the Powell phenomenon saying the American economy is strong and it can sustain rising rates. Then we have this other phenomenon that's in the news cycle of first-time home buyers are never going to be able to buy now because inventory is low and rates are ridiculous. And we have this other phenomenon in the news cycle that inflation is spiking and it's out of control and it's impacting everyone. Well, what's the phenomenon? Is it inflation is out of control, or is it's the Roaring '20s and pent-up demand is driving economic growth post-COVID?
So to Yonna's point, in the late 80s and the 2000s, these components that you're talking about have always been there. The only little difference, not little, the only huge difference that we haven't been is what the impact of the pandemic all the way across the board. Look, and this may not be a popular comment right now. I have to tell you, I am super bullish on real estate. I'm actually the most excited I've been about our business and how real estate's going to do, only because, and this may be unpopular, and I may get myself into trouble, and I tend to do that regularly. You've got to have skills to help that first-time home buyer. Yonna and I are doing first home buyer transactions right now. We're helping people buy homes right now, first-time home buyers. You just got to open up a different set of tools to help that buyer. That toolbox is very different today than it was 6 months ago, and you just got to you got to brush off a tool that might have been sitting in there that was your grandfather's. That is the only used once is the right tool for this circumstances. That makes sense?
Yeah.
I'm excited about it, to be honest with you.
Let's get to comments. And why don't we ask the experts here? We got one expert in Keith, Michael Buchensky.
The expert is Mrs. Smith.
Yonna Smith, Woody Fincham, Michael Buchensky, Bill McKenzie, Jamie Turner, all watching the program. Are you guys bullish on real estate for the next, call it, 2 years? Or do you expect a lull in real estate over the next 24 months? Michael Buchensky is in. I predict, and I could be wrong, hedge funds and corporations with cash will buy up new construction neighborhoods and try to force the market in areas of economic growth to a rental market first owner occupied second. Michael Buchensky is predicting hedge funds and big corporations buying up real estate in strong in areas or regions or cities with strong economies, and those corporations will then take that real estate and turn them into rental properties instead of single-family detached purchase properties.
Which makes some sense because
Buchensky's a smart guy.
Well, if the hedge funds see everything going down, all across the board, then the only thing left is going to be like you don't want to have cash.
Well, he takes it a step further, and remember, Buchensky's in the lending business.
I get it.
He takes it a step further. He says that means people, if this happens, that means people will have to pay more via rate hikes, and they will just take it. They have no choice, and they will go into debt to buy what they want. People will continue to spend at current rates, but will go from cash to credit debt and will screw up another generation of people.
So it's interesting. I've been through a couple of cycles, like more than a couple of cycles like this, and inevitably, when everything is red over there on the stock market, people move to dirt, right? And it's not. I think to Michael's point, I think that's more of a Phoenix, large metro areas where you can get some,
But if you think about it, and I'm just hypothetical with you. I just
don't see it happening here.
Well, think about it. You have Woody Fincham. I'm going to get to your comments, I promise.
Woody, thanks for sitting next to me today.
Take Charlottesville and Albemarle County. If you're a Blackstone or a BlackRock, a hedge fund that is cash rich, and you do your market analysis, look at Charlottesville and Albemarle. You have a university that's world class, that's hiring more people and admitting more students than ever. Why wouldn't you target Charlottesville and Albemarle County to buy inventory and turn it into rental stock?
So I don't.
Why wouldn't you do it? They're up 13% year over year, the rents.
But it becomes
year over year, 13%.
You own some rental properties.
I do, 24 tenants.
Got it. And you have to have the ROI on the property management side. And this is a Suzanne Real question, right? She can help us because this is what she does for a living. But in order to manage a number of properties, in order for the ROI, in order the return on investment to work because they're going to have to acquire at pretty high numbers right now because the sales prices are they're still accelerating, right? They're just not accelerating at double digit rates.
But if they're the hedge funds would use cash.
I understand that.
They wouldn't use.
I know that, but they still have to buy it, right? They
No,
still
I
have
get
to.
it.
They
I
still
get
have to buy this cup
Yeah.
of coffee instead of at $3 at $5 or whatever
But
the hell
Keith,
it
you
is.
say all the time, owning real estate is the best hedge against inflation.
It is the
So
best.
if you have cash and you put it into real estate and then you rent it at something that goes up every year,
there's a
when
component.
the market's in the crapper,
Got it. There's a component you're missing
Okay.
on that end of it. It's the property management component of
Sure.
it, right? So somebody who's way smarter than at least me is going to look at that and goes, look, I need a certain amount of units.
you kick your property manager, what, 6 to 10 points?
They're
month?
They are going to look, and this is an IRPI question too. I think they would be looking at certain numbers. So it's kind of like Chick-fil-A, right? Why won't Chick-fil-A come to Zion's Crossroads? I think it's
It's not enough cars.
their demographics don't work. The volume doesn't work. I think it's a mistake. I think you put a Chick-fil-A,
It would crush it.
it would freaking crush it.
It would crush it.
But Chick-fil-A won't do it.
Yeah.
And what will happen is Blackstone, all these bean counters are they're gonna go to place where they can get a certain absorption rate. It's developer 101, get a certain absorption rate and a certain return on investment so that they can get their dividends to their client. I just don't see it happening here.
Dan Pettit, all right, there's a lot of comments coming in. Dan Pettit agrees with Michael Buchenski.
So Dan thinks the big corporation.
Dan Pettit, I'm gonna tag Michael Buchenski and Daniel Pettit's comment here so they can connect. The show airs on 15 Facebook pages, 15 Twitter accounts, Spotify, iTunes, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, LinkedIn, Instagram, Snapchat, TikTok. It airs freaking everywhere, and I'm having a hard time keeping up with all these comments right now. Dan Pettit, I'm tagging. There's a lot of comments coming in there.
So maybe Smith should pick up a little bit of this.
There's a lot of comments coming in. So Pettit agrees with Buchenski that he expects institutional monies to start creeping into the localized markets like Charlottesville.
Okay.
And then Buchenski to Pettit says the sales prices will stall. Home sales prices will stall at maybe a 3% yearly increase. So the word where you said that, the word we're getting out there is decelerate.
It's deceleration, right? So it's
Decelerate.
appreciation, depreciation, and deceleration. So that's what's happening right now. The price, and there's all kinds of impacts on it. I've been wrong more than right, and I may be wrong. I just don't see the institutional buyer, and I use the word institutional specifically. I do see the more localized players in the market. I didn't do it. I parked legally, I promise you. So
Charlottesville's finest. We're about a block away from their headquarters.
So I do see, to their point, I do see local players coming in here, right? Local folks buying, and it's interesting. And Dan and Michael, for a future show, and I've been working on it, is I'm taking a look at through the GISs in the city in Albemarle County, the tax thing, to find out who's doing the buying, right? Actually, Sean Tubbs does a great job. Does a great job of that, and I'm just trying to convert it into a spreadsheet, because if it's an LLC, right, then it's a corporation, obviously. So typically, right, I know, duh. Captain Obvious. I'm not even right on my Captain Obvious socks on the end of it. I just don't think you're going to see a lot of that. You'll see Keith and Yonna saying, or Mr. and Mrs. Miller, or Judah, or Michael, or Dan buying some property for rentals, because that's the conversation.
This is Woody Fincham and Associates. This is another one. Woody Fincham, dude.
Woody got my brain turning this morning.
Woody Fincham, you're A+ people. Woody Fincham, you are very good.
We should have a toast.
How many times has he been on the show? He's been on your show once, and then
Yeah.
we filmed something here for Pearl
Yeah.
certification.
Yeah,
He
sure.
is very good on camera. He has significant
you're
knowledge.
you're gonna, as long as he's willing to do it, you're gonna see him on more regular basis, because
I mean, we should get Fincham in the mix once or twice a month, easily.
Yes, sir.
Please. You're the executive producer. Here's what Fincham says. Fincham and Associates. Welcome Ness Realty to the program.
Hey.
Welcome Real Estate 3 to the program. Woody Fincham has this comment, which is an agreement with Buchensky. So this is a topic we may need to cover here. And Wickower, are you following? You're in the mix?
A little bit.
What are you doing over there? You playing Wordle?
No,
It's like a dude's playing Wordle, and
I
you
think
just got caught with your hand in the cookie jar over there, dude.
No, I'm helping. I'm helping Tuck
Okay.
at Carter's Breads.
Okay. This is the life of brand management. There's always something. You're always at the mercy of your
Judah,
clients.
you're doing good, bro.
He's always doing well. He's doing well. So this is from Fincham. Wall Street is displacing Main Street. A big part of what we're dealing with, I think, is the presence of large corporations holding long-term rentals. Right now, they are experiencing tremendous growth and lease rates for single-family homes. You couple that with the downward pressure that's coming towards the lower price markets because interest rates have gone up so much, and it's repositioning folks who could afford a whole lot more house into a spot where they can't afford as much house. So you've got investor pressure, and you also have folks downgrading from one house tier to the next, or even a couple down. It's going to create some serious inventory issues.
So the follow-up question I have to Woody on this, and I respect the heck out of him on that, but is that going to impact our local market?
He says he thinks the real estate market locally stays strong for the next year at least.
I would agree with that statement. Yeah, I've always felt 2024 is going to be the year.
Michael Buchensky, this is a comment from a financing man, a mortgage broker.
Hell of a coach too.
Hell of a coach, great basketball player. Beard game is strong. Awesome father. Awesome dad. Awesome husband. Michael Buchensky. Love this guy. He said, I had a client come to me to buy $20 million of real estate in Waynesboro, which was basically an entire neighborhood.
Wow.
This is a commercial deal, but it's already happening right now. The client, $20 million, buying a neighborhood in Waynesboro.
So he's out buying SF. Is he buying?
Is it single family detached?
Is it single family detached? Is it so? What? So it's really interesting. If you I dig into the National Home Builders Association. I read that quite regularly. The multifamily purchases
Is on fire.
is on fire.
Yeah.
It's because rents are up
Right.
there. So I'm curious if that 20 million is I'm looking for whatever number.
What's the stock? What's the type of inventory, Michael, is what he's asking.
Yeah, my suspicion is because I get the same.
I mean, he said it's a whole neighborhood. I've got to think it's a mix of inventory.
It probably is a mix of inventory, but I get a lot of requests for, hey, I'm looking to buy an apartment building. What's available? 1031 exchange.
Yeah.
That kind of stuff.
Jeez. One landlord taking over a, and I know this.
Well,
and I
so
know,
the question is he being successful at it? Right. So one of the most difficult things to do to develop is parcel assemblage. Right. It's hard. That's a really hard thing to do on that end of it. But I'm curious what the product mix type on that.
Well,
is.
and when you start getting one entity or one person controlling a neighborhood, I mean, if it's an association, they can have a lot of power.
Oh, that's two different animals, but that's
a lot of power.
That's two very different scenarios. Again, depending on the product type. I can tell you, just to Michael's standpoint, and I know this because I'm working with some clients on that end of it. Everybody's looking on the other side of the mountain. I mean, they are. There's a lot of, and $20 million is big money.
Yeah.
What was that? What was that saying?
It's single family house.
Really?
With some townhomes.
Oh wow.
Single family homes with townhouses.
So they're going out. They're looking to gobble up $20 million worth of SFAs and single family detached. Wow. So I'm wrong. It's here. That's big money. Wow. I learned something today.
I mean, that's big money right there.
That's interesting. I don't know.
I mean, Pettit says a college town to invest in is a home run. And then he asks if Bart is still in control of the villas. Yes, Bart Fry Properties, is still in control of the villas at Southern Ridge. I have a rental, a condo at the villas at Southern Ridge, and the initial developer who developed the villas at Southern Ridge during the time of great unpleasantness was going to sell condos individually. And then the financing for the condos went in the crapper because they're non-warrantable.
Yeah.
And then he said, I'm going to pivot and I'm going to turn these into rentals. And at the time he was probably extremely disappointed, but now his rentals, dude, these units at the villas at Southern Ridge are renting for $1,900 a month.
So
$1,900 a month, Dan Pettit.
Yeah, so that's this whole conversation is, the impact on rentals, if it's institutional buyers or Keith and Jerry or whatever.
The institutional buyers, it's the same thing that's happened, and say, I'm going to throw this to you, and then get out of your way. I learned so much from you. Learned so much from Buchensky.
I'm learning from the feed.
We're learning from the feed. Mm-hmm. So let's take the Glenmore neighborhood.
Sure.
Okay. The cost of goods in the labor market and the financing market is so difficult right now that building a new house in a neighborhood is more expensive than ever. So you're seeing partners of the program, Stanley Martin, building homes in Glenmore that are gorgeous, but they're smaller than the initial wave of homes built in this neighborhood. They're 2,000 to 3,000 square feet.
Yeah, initially they were double that. They were huge.
A lot. The first wave of homes in Glenmore, 5,000 square feet.
4,000 or 5,000 square feet.
So you're talking 2,000 to 3,000 square foot homes.
Yeah.
But because the market is so expensive right now, those homes are trading between 800,000 and 1.1 million. So all the people who had the initial stock of homes are riding the wave of these smaller, newly constructed homes and enjoying value appreciation in their older houses. So the question I have for you, if this institutional money comes into the Central Virginia market, Michael Buchensky is talking about a $20 million deal where institutional money is buying a neighborhood.
So is that private money or institutional money?
Is that institutional money, Buchensky? So if institutional money is coming into the neighborhood, is coming into the region,
sure.
Will we see the same phenomenon that new construction had with older homes? New construction driving up the price of older homes in the for sale market. Will we see the same phenomenon in the rental market? Institutional money driving up rents. Will that trickle over to mom and pop landlords and see rents also increase? I would say yes.
Yeah, so all these pressures that you've outlined, Judah's outlined, but we're going to actually talk about this on Monday with Greg Slater and Jim Duncan. Greg's actually going to talk a little bit about if you take a look at some of the pricing in the MLS, some new constructions are actually decreasing in their value. They're actually lowering their prices. So he's going to kind
of...
Where? This was a quick conversation. I had to have a chance to take a look at it, but he's going to share some information.
Not Old Trail.
I don't know, because it was a quick conversation,
Okay.
2 minutes before I walked into the car board meeting, but he's going to share, because he was asking me, are you tracking this? And I said no, and he's going to track it for us and talk about that. But I know Ryan Homes out in Fluvanna County has lowered some of its prices, so he's going to take a look at the new construction. And my follow-up question to him was, well, be prepared to talk about why. Right? What is that? Why is that happening? And it could be cost of goods. Some like lumber's dropped, and maybe it's reflecting in the price, or maybe they went in a little too high and they're trying to adjust it. But I was a little bit taken back by that.
I'm going to ask him this question directly.
And you're working hard today.
I am working hard today. There's a lot of viewers today. Is that an anomaly?
I don't know. So everybody who's watching now, please tune in on Monday the 29th, because he is the new construction expert.
Well, I know he is. Slater is.
And I want to ask him that question.
Because the contractors and custom home builders that we work alongside are saying they can't hire anybody.
Absolutely. I had the same reaction you had. Really? But I trust Greg implicitly, this is the new construction. He knows he's been doing it for decades on the sales side, so he'll share some of that information with us.
What a show.
Holy schmoly, look at that.
What a show.
Rolled in here with what, 2 bullet points?
Wild Bill. This is from Wild Bill McKenzie.
Wow.
So corporate entities buy large rental groups. If inflation pressures push in causing jobless rates to rise and force a issue with food. Hold on. I'm not sure I understand this comment. He's basically saying those in the lower economic stratosphere will suffer the most. Undoubtedly, that's what we've been saying here.
Well, that's the conversation I'm going to have at 2:00 on the Regional Housing Partnership. We always have a roundtable discussion, and I throw a topic out. And I'm actually going to throw this very topic out that we're talking about. What is the impact of the market right now on housing affordability? Right, and what as a body, if there's anything we can do to impact or to assist that. And what I'm hearing today is that the institutional buyers in there buying it up, and if the city wants to do anything other than, I think the first right of refusal thing is. It was something written in there to be thrown away because I don't think it makes sense. But what it can do is it can give money to certain nonprofits. I'm a little partial to the land trust on that end of it since I chair it. But it could give money to help buy units so we can compete against the institutional buyers where we can go ahead and potentially buy that.
Think about the unfair.
I've been wanting to create a REIT.
Real estate investment trust
for housing affordability, do exactly what they're doing.
Think about how unfair to advantage institutional investors in a hedge fund would have.
Yeah.
They're cash rich. They have likely a lending arm. The lending arm that they have associated with their firm gains value when rates go up.
Yeah.
So if they buy neighborhoods and gobble up inventory, that's going to impact supply and demand.
Yeah, so
it's going to make the values of the prices go up. So when people need to borrow money from them, they've artificially increased the prices of homes, and then you're borrowing money from them at higher interest rates. Plus, they're getting the juice from the rents going up because they're gobbling up the inventory. They can drive rental rates up. And they're getting the value that comes with the appreciation of the houses by gobbling up the inventory. The prices are going to go up as well. They win so many ways there.
Well, I think Michael.
Go
ahead. I'm sorry.
A quote from the Danish MP, or at least he was in 2016.
What's MP?
MP is Minister Prime. I don't.
Yeah, MPs would be the same as a
Prime Minister.
PM.
No. Well,
let me see.
No, MP in the British and the parliamentarian. I can speak English.
Is Danish.
Yeah, but they have a parliamentarian style government. On the end of it, it's like a senator.
Minister.
Yeah, it's
Minister of the Parliament.
What did the Danish MP say?
She coined the phrase, "You'll own nothing and be happy." In other words, once the hedge funds have bought up all the property in your neighborhood, you're going to have to rent, and you'll be happy because you've got to live somewhere. Right?
Until the numbers don't work and they dump everything on the market.
Well, then you have a glut of inventory. Then you know what happens when you have a glut of inventory.
So the pendulum just keeps going back and forth.
You don't want that to happen.
Yeah. Look, it's. I still am bullish on real estate. Maybe I'm supposed to be. I can tell you from our little world, we're busier now than we were 6 months ago on the end of it. I think a lot of it has to be people are seeking out trusted advisors a little bit more. You have to bring a little bit of skill sets to the table to navigate this thing, to hire somebody like Scott or Michael or Woody and all the stuff that really know what they're talking about so they can go ahead and real time it for you. But yeah, it's...
You want to know something that I've learned? Member of the Parliament, Jason Howard, thank you very much. Member of the Parliament, he said. This is what I've learned.
It's like a senator and representative.
This is what I've learned in 2022. How about what we've all learned here? After one of the best bull runs in American history call it mid-2020, late 2020 to 2022, where the stock market was absolutely on fire and green, and you felt untouchable as an
I've got a response to that.
as an investor, I've realized that yet again, that timing markets is not a great approach. Your timing a market is going to be extremely difficult to do.
What's the best thing
Okay.
to do?
Just
Be patient.
In the market rather than trying to time
Time
it.
in.
exactly. Exactly.
So it's interesting, you know, Yonna and I lived through the time of great unpleasantness, lost everything we had, right? We were heavy in real estate, obviously. And actually, we stayed out of the stock market until recently.
Well, that's the next thing I've learned yet again is diversifying your assets is incredibly important.
Yeah.
From end of 2020 to early 2022, stock portfolio was freaking on fire.
So
Everybody was like, we're untouchable. But you know, since it's dropped in 2022 and it's gone down between 20 and 30%, depending on how your portfolio position. You know what's not gone down in 2022, 20 to 30%?
Property.
The real estate holdings.
Yeah.
That's why I'm
The real estate holdings have done the opposite of
And
that.
that's the reason why I keep on saying it's a hedge for inflation. So right
Done
now,
the opposite of that.
yeah. So you know, again, to get a little bit personal on this, we lost $17 million. Literally went from this to zero. A lot of hard work, built ourselves back up. But we, over the last 10 years, have been building a pretty sizable cash position. Not sizable. We have a cash position on it right now, and we're unloading our cash right now. Because at the moment, it's worth 8 to 9% less. As interest rates go up, the value of that starts dropping. And we're talking to the ERPs and going, here you go, ERPs, do something with this.
Judah had something to say. Emergent Financial Services, the ERPs, who he's referencing.
Yeah, so in response to the last 2 years of bullish markets, I saw something, and this was, I don't know that this is definite proof of anything, but somebody put I think they put the last 2 years of, like, I don't know I can't remember if it was the S&P or what, but they basically subtracted all the money that was printed by the Fed, and what you end up with is rather than
flat market.
Rather than a bull market, you end up with a flat
Market. Yeah,
last 2
we
years.
all know we know it was artificially propped by stimulus money.
So Powell just said
That's what you're saying.
the labor market is
Yeah.
is the problem. I was just reading the what do they call it, teleticker,
The ticker.
the ticker below, and I think whoever made the mention about or read, I think it was you that read the article about the unemployment rate, or somebody
Larry Summers.
was predicting it. I think that's what they're going to start doing now. I think what they're going to start doing now is trying to force the unemployment rate to climb up a little bit to try to cool this.
Larry Summers, the former U.S. Treasury Secretary, wants 10 million people to lose their job to curb inflation.
Does anybody remember when
6 million unemployed in May. He said it needs to swell to 16 million. If it swells to 16 million, inflation will stop spiking and will start plateauing. He wants to see a 1-year spike to 10% unemployment, 2 years at 7.5%, and 5 years at 6%. If you have a 1-year spike at 10%, 2 years at 7.5% unemployment, and 5 years at 6% unemployment, I swear to God, 2 generations of Americans will forever be left behind. It will be destroyed.
From 3.5 decades of doing this, the one thing I learned, and this is why I kind of laugh at the soft landing thing, Powell, the government, they only understand 2 ways. It's either the seesaw is either this way or that way, and what's going to happen is they're going to make decisions, however they're going to make decisions, and impact it. And if they're not careful, which kind of sounds like they're not, in my opinion, not being, that seesaw is just going to go right. Like somebody's just going to get off the end of the other end of the seesaw, and then you're just going to plummet to the ground. Because that's the way it's always been. They do these huge swings, and then everybody recalibrates and adapts and overcomes, moves, and communicates, to quote good old Scott Morris. And then we're going to have to adapt and overcome to whatever market they give us on the end of it. I may be wrong, but that's what I've learned over the years, that's what you do.
Judah, anything you want to add?
Yeah, that's what I see happening. I mean, like I said, they're looking at that curve and saying, okay, if we get one of these too high, we got to fix the other one. If unemployment is too high, we got to raise rates. If and they're just like.
So what he's talking about putting us.
They're just reacting.
He's talking us to put us into stagflation.
No doubt.
That's what they want.
No doubt.
Or somebody
No doubt.
is saying that.
No doubt.
And that's a scary thought.
It's hugely scary.
Yeah.
Hugely scary because you're.
But I'm still bullish about. I really mean this. I am still.
You're commodity. You're turning people into pawn pieces.
Yeah.
You're turning people into chess pieces.
Yeah, maybe we're just lucky, but we're doing great, and I think a lot of it is I'm particularly the young buyer, the 27-year-old buyer. They're putting what I'm holding in my hand, this iPhone, down, and they're saying, "Help us, guide us through this." Because I think what they're starting to do is shut off all this noise. That's there that we're looking at to my left and your right. Look at that, I got that right. That was amazing.
Well, the viewer, it's different for the viewer.
That's right.
Yeah.
I was just happy I got
viewer,
mine
that
left.
would be his right for the viewer.
Well, they can't see the screen anyways.
They can see the screen.
Well,
where the screen is.
But what if they're
where he's
listening?
looking.
What if they're listening? So in the studio,
Well, the viewers, the viewers
and the listeners. To my left, as I'm sitting here, is a TV screen with doing what is that? CNBC.
CNBC's on here 24/7, 365.
CNBC.
Or I guess Monday through Friday, from when we wake up till when a couple hours after markets close.
There's also a value, and I guess this is what I'm trying to say. Just shut that off.
I like it. I'm a news junkie.
I know you are.
I like it. I mean, I don't watch
But
watching the financial news.
The Dow is up.
Watching the financial news is different than watching the crime, murder, police news.
Sure.
I don't like that stuff. Sure. You say, yeah, right. I don't watch the school shooting stuff. I don't watch that stuff.
So, gentlemen, thank you for trying to
great
fill in for me. I'm glad that I was able to get here on time and got a little lucky. Judah, I always love it when you chime in.
I love when Judah chimes in.
This is one of my fun shows. I wanted to get to what everybody's best top 10 restaurants are. We'll save that for another day.
So what's Friday's deal?
Batman and Robin. We'll do it Friday.
Batman, Robin, and Alfred.
Yeah.
Alfred is Judah Wickhauer. Wave to your fans, please. Batman is Keith Smith. Wave to your fans, please. I am Robin. My name is Jerry. And this is Real Talk with Keith Smith. All the shows are archived at realtalkwithkeithsmith.com.
It's a wonderful logo.
It's a wonderful logo. It's a beautifully designed website. If you'd like to see who built the website, just scroll down to the footer. There's a clickable link for you to go visit the firm who designed and developed it. You don't have to do that if you don't want to. Check out the partners.
Well, I'll definitely
check out the partners.
Please check on the partners. Without them, we couldn't be having the fun that we have three times a week.
No doubt. You did a great job.
Thank you.
Today was a lot of fun.
It was a lot of fun. I love throwing a couple topics out and see where it goes.
I love it. Thank you to the viewers and listeners. I Love CVille show is up, in 39 minutes.
Yeah.
39 minutes. We'll see you soon, guys. Actually, 49 minutes, but still, very short time. 49 minutes for the I Love CVille show. So long, everybody. Take care.
Thank you, everybody.
All done.
Yeah, had a great time, man. Maybe